And good evening and welcome to the September 22nd meeting of the Murphysboro City School Board. We're glad to have a number of visitors in our audience tonight. We always welcome you to come and join our meeting and watch us and listen to us and all the other things that go with it. At this time, I'm going to ask you to please stand. We have a young man from Overall Creek, Dawson Fletcher, from his WAMAS class to lead us in our pledge, followed then by our moment of silence. And now our pledge.
I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now our moment of silence. Thank you. Board members, you have in front of you and have seen earlier perhaps our agenda. I'd like to have a motion to approve our agenda, if you don't mind.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. King. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Communications, Dr. Gilbert?
Yes, we have a guest tonight. Adrienne Archie is here with Homework Hotline, and she has a presentation.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity to come and speak with you all today. I am Adrienne Archie, and I am the Assistant Director for Homework Hotline. And I just wanted to come and thank you all for continuing to use our service and to encourage you to do the same this school year. Homework Hotline is in its 25th year this year. And just to give you a little idea about what we do is we provide free tutoring for all students in the state of Tennessee in grades K through 12. We have provided all of the third grade flashcards for all schools throughout Middle Tennessee, and we've also provided 350,000 stickers for those students to be able to have our toll-free number and our 615 number so that they can call us for free tutoring. Every school in Wilson County should have received that in early August. Last year, we provided just a little over 16,000 calls, and just to give you an idea of how many we've taken so far with the changes in the math curriculum, in the first few weeks of school, we're already close to 4,000 calls. So it's been a jumping year, just to say the least. Our teachers are professional, licensed, certified teachers. Every year we renew our contracts with each county, and you tell us which books you use for the school year, so we have access to those books. So when the students call from Wilson County, we'll say, "Thank you for calling Homework Hotline." They'll give us the first letter of their first name, the first letter of their last name, and the last 4 digits of their telephone number. That's the way that we track that student throughout the school year. They'll tell us what they're working on. We do not give out answers. We guide the children through the problems, and then at the end, we ask them to solve a problem on their own without our assistance. So then that means that they've mastered the concept. Last school year, Homework Hotline provided 129 free tutoring sessions for Wilson County students. We are supported by the United Way of Wilson County, and the majority of those calls that we received last year were math calls. We received calls from students in every school in Wilson County, so we're glad about that. And then also, 65% of those students who called mastered the concept. So again, I just traveled from Nashville this evening to let you all know that we're still around. We're still here to help the kids. They can still give us a call. Every school already has the stickers. They have the flashcards and some posters that have been distributed. And we just wanted to encourage you all to continue to call us. Our teachers help students in math, science, reading, social studies, and our teachers also speak in 6 different languages. So if they call and they don't speak English, it's okay. If they speak Arabic, if they speak Spanish, if they speak Kurdish, if they speak Somalian, we have it there for those students, and it is completely free. And I appreciate your time. If you don't have any questions for me, or maybe you do.
Adrienne?
Yes.
Do you have one centralized location that all calls go to?
Sure. We We do. We have one main office. We're located in the Cone School in Nashville, Tennessee. It's a building where it's like a community building. So there are several nonprofit organizations, and then there's an alternative school in the building. But all of the teachers come from their classrooms straight to Homework Hotline. And then that way we're open Monday through Thursday from 4 until 8 p.m. And so those teachers come in right after school, they jump on the phones, and they're able to help the kids that way. And then we also have a satellite location with students at Belmont University. Students in their College of Education are able to take calls if they roll over. Like if all of our teachers are on the telephone, then those college students who already have the experience with helping kids in the classroom and outside of the classroom, they take the calls as well. They also have all of the books at their location as well. So
I am sure that the students of Rutherford County and Murphysboro City Schools appreciate being able to contact you to ask questions about problems. Any questions from members of the board, Collier?
What's the phone number?
Okay, so the 615, for some kids who can dial it, is 615-298-6636, and the toll-free number is 1-888. I do believe it is, I want to say 868-5777. I see so many numbers all day. So 1-888-868-5777. If that is not correct, they do have it on the stickers, and it is on our website at homeworkhotline.info. And again, we're open Monday through Thursday only from 4 until 8 p.m. The services are totally free. We have all of the books, the workbooks. If it's a teacher-created worksheet, there's no problem because our teachers are licensed professionals and they're able to help the children that way. You want to also thank your local Sonic because they also provide the funds so that we can provide those services for students in Wilson County.
Thank you, ma'am, very much. Question?
I was just going to say, I think it's great that you have the additional languages.
Yes.
Because there's a great need, so that's great. Thank you so much for your services.
Thank you. I do appreciate you being here very much.
Thank you.
And we do get a report out every year of how many of our students in Murphysboro use Hotline, so thank you very much for that. We want to congratulate Butch Campbell because he received his pin for Level 4 boardsmanship at the fall meeting, and also Nancy Rainier received her Level 3 boardsmanship pin, so congratulations to you two.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mitchell Nelson has several thank yous. The first is to First Baptist Church on Main for their donation to their field trip scholarship fund. And also they would like to thank Jerusalem Cumberland Presbyterian Church for their donation of school supplies. Hobgood and Dr. Garrett is here tonight, so congratulations to you, Dr. Garrett and Hobgood, because they have been on NPR. As you know, there was a story about the trip that they take into the community on the buses, and so very good publicity for Hobgood and well-deserved. And also, Hobgood has received a $2,000 grant from the Scholastic Reading Club. This is in part of $1.5 million that is supplied by James Patterson, and Hobgood was one of 28,000 applications submitted, and they did receive $2,000 for that. John Pittard expresses gratitude to the following: $250 donation by Babette Winchell of Exit Realty, 25 backpacks filled with school supplies by Taylor's Chapel Baptist Church, a $500 gift card, and 150 boxes of school supplies by the Lascassas Pike Kroger, and New Vision Baptist Church has adopted John Pittard. And congratulations to Chuck Avent, who is the PE teacher at Bradley. He was recognized as the Educator of the Week September the 10th by WKRN. State Farm, and several of you were there the other night, but State Farm presented their check for $25,000 to Overall Creek Elementary for their Greenhouse Effect Gardening Grant. The MTSU Freshman Days of Service delivered 1,155 snack bags to be used for Murphysboro City students. Today we had a tennis event at MTSU. It was free for students in grades 2 through 6. And we have been having our school health screenings, and the Lions Club is a big part of that. So a shout out to the Lions Club for their help with that every year. We also have had, as you all know, very successful Reading in the Schools Day. This is an event that is sponsored annually by our Read to Succeed organization. And so thank you all for reading, and thank you certainly to our community members and to our parents for reading in the schools. And then finally, she made it. She didn't know that she was going to be here on time. But Cathy Farrell, we have known for a long time. And Mr. Campbell, I'm going to let you introduce her because you invited her here tonight, and I'm glad you did.
Cathy Farrell is the outreach coordinator with St. Thomas Rutherford, and is, I guess I'm going to have to admit, is part of my boss of my volunteer services at the hospital, and so please be nice to her tonight so that she doesn't take it out on me later on, I guess. Cathy is in charge of the mobile health unit. And I'm going to let you, if you don't mind, explain what exactly the mobile health unit does. And new bus looks great.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And so, yes, Mr. Campbell also drives shuttles at St. Thomas Rutherford Hospital, and I have a hand in the volunteer program, so we're grateful. Very grateful for him, and just thought it was very appropriate to come and say thank you, because it's been about 5.5 years since we started this journey. So I was hired in March of 2010 and started out embedded in the city schools with an old bus that I didn't even see before I said yes to this position. And I think we really weren't sure what it was going to look like that year. I know Gary Anderson was involved, and of course Dr. Gilbert, Tim Glover, and of course Gordon Ferguson from the hospital at the time. Partnered with the Guidance Center to provide mental health services to remove that stigma and kind of have an anonymous access point, and then some grant dollars through the hospital allow us to see children for free. That partnership, and adults by the way as well, so that partnership is still in place and about 1,700 patient encounters strong every year. From a physical health perspective, started out with the Primary Care and Hope Clinic, and I'm so grateful to Lisa Terry, Jenny Strassner, Mary Rose is very, I know, familiar, Jenny Stinnett now, actually. Mary Rose is very familiar to you all, having retired from the system. We were so grateful for that partnership, but we are thrilled that we have our own clinic now, the St. Louis Family Medicine Clinic, and we've launched a residency program with the University of Tennessee. So the UT Family Medicine residents actually rotate on the unit as well. So we have physicians that are in training, which is another level of care for us, and we're actually able to see entire families now. Where Jenny was phenomenal with the children, we can see birth through the grave. And so when parents come to us, that's why I'm late. I said I called you actually, and then I called Dr. Gilbert's cell phone and said, I am taking care of your babies. I'm at Reeves Rogers right now, and I talked the nurse practitioner into staying a little bit later to see a family of 3, and so they're brand new to the country, not just to Murphysboro. So the children needed immunizations and physicals to get into school. They had no connection to care, no insurance, and no resource. But there's also a baby and then a mom who doesn't have that option either. And so to be able to take care of everybody in that moment is really, really rewarding, and I'm so grateful to this body, but specifically to you, for that vision and for allowing this to become reality. So 5.5 years ago, we saw 1,000 people in the first year and have expanded ever since, and this past year over 6,000 patient encounters on that unit. We run 4 to 5 days a week, sometimes 6 or 7. It just depends on what's going on. We also are capacity support for Mary Lee and the Coordinated School Health Program. We're involved in the screenings. We're the connector to care. So let's say a child comes back and they're uninsured and they have a vision issue, elevated blood pressure, something of that nature, and they don't have insurance or don't have access, then we serve as that connector to care into our clinic to make sure that they receive services that will help address those issues. And again, if those issues present themselves in the child, then often they're presenting themselves in the entire family. We've done Project Diabetes with you all, which was wonderful for us. It was a grant that Mary Lee was able to acquire through the state. And this was one of the few school systems that received that funding. And so the mobile health unit team came in and we did blood pressure and glucose screenings baseline, and then did those for every family member that participated the entire time. And they trended, well, we have so many stories of people that had no care, were connected to care, we diagnosed things, we saw them for free, and then trended downwards with the education and the medical care that they received, their elevated blood pressure and elevated glucose. And over a 2-year period, actually had people get on blood pressure medication, change their lifestyle, seek medical care, receive it, and get off. as well. So that was one family. That's really, really remarkable. So really wanted to thank you all tonight, kind of share some of the changes that were occurring with us. I will say that we've also added, kind of as a caveat, my team is certified now. They're certified CPR instructors. The average experience on my team at the hospital is about 22 years. They're all firemen, they're all EMT, first responders, and they work PRN. I have a team of 4 that are with me, and so these folks have real life experience, and for them to be your CPR instructor certifying your Code Blue response teams in partnership with Sarah and Mary Lee has been really nice community outreach and partnership for us, but I think very beneficial for the folks in your buildings and for the adults and the children that are in those buildings as well. So thank you all very much for your support. We're so grateful for that at the hospital. We're grateful for you letting us serve the families that attend your schools, and just grateful that it was able to start here and then grow. Do you all have any questions?
Ms.
Yes.
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment.
Yes.
And that is, Cathy Farrell, thank you so much. I remember
welcome.
occasions when you had to drive that big thing.
I did. I did,
And
yes.
I mean, you've just been amazing, and your
thank
team,
you.
too. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. So I appreciate that. New bus. We had an old bus, and Christy
I haven't
Houston
seen the
found
new. I've got to
the
see
new
it.
one was delivered 2 years ago. Christy Houston and all of their, we all know and are so blessed in this community with their generosity, and a $500,000 grant later, we have a very beautiful mobile health unit, state-of-the-art, and with some state-of-the-art equipment on it.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to pull up and serve some of the families that we serve in that kind of environment is really, really remarkable. So, anybody have questions? Okay.
I would encourage any of you, if you have an opportunity, to go by and see the bus at one of the
Please.
schools.
Yes.
I think they'd be more welcome
Absolutely.
you to come aboard and look around. It is very nice, and the personnel are fantastic as well.
So, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Captain. I have a note that I'm going to pass around. You can look at it and read it. It's a thank you note pertaining to a funeral. I want to congratulate our own Gary Anderson. Gary was elected chairman of the Williamson County School Board last night. Overwhelmingly, nobody voted against him. It was unanimous. Well, we congratulate you very much, because we know that y'all have had some ups and downs, and we are sure that you're going to take it up from here on out. Thank you, and congratulations to you.
We look forward to seeing you on the news.
All right, consent items. We have a motion to approve the consent items.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. King. Any opposition? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, no opposition. All right, action item.
Your first action item, I'm going to turn over to Kelly Baker.
Okay, your first action item tonight is the election of the board chair and vice chair. We do that every September. And according to board policy B03 and according to state statute TCA 492-202 and section 25-6 of the Murphysboro City Code, board officers are to be elected annually for this school board. The state statute mandates that you have a chair. However, the school board policy mandates that you have also a vice chair. So we will hold elections for both tonight. The term for the officers to be elected would be from November 1st of 2015 to October 31st of 2016. Nominations for board chair will be given, followed by a roll call for votes, and then nominations will be taken for vice chair with a roll call to follow. A majority of the entire board, not just those present, which is 4 votes, is necessary for one to be voted into office, and that's pursuant to state statute. And board officers cannot be elected by acclamation. So even if we just have one person nominated, we still have to take the vote. After nominations have been made and seconded, Ms. Price will call your name, and you should state the name of the nominee you are voting for. Please remember it takes 4 votes for a member to be elected. So at this time, I will call for nominations for board chair.
I nominate Butch Campbell.
Second.
Are there any other nominations? Okay, seeing none, Ms. Price.
Andy Brown.
Mr. Barrett.
Mr. Campbell.
Dr. Brown is absent. Mr. King.
Butch Campbell.
Ms. Phillips.
Mr. Campbell.
Ms. Rainier.
Mr. Campbell?
Ms. Smith.
Mr. Campbell.
And Mr. Campbell.
I guess Mr. Campbell, he's the only one there.
Okay, congratulations, Mr.
Well,
Campbell. You will
thank
be
you.
our fearless leader for another year.
Well, thank you very much. I hope that we can continue. We have a lot of challenges coming up within the next year, as you as the board know, and I hope we all will work together, I know, and meet those challenges and continue to prosper in our system. Thank you. I appreciate the honor.
Okay, now we'll move for call for nominations for vice chair.
Nancy Rainier.
I second that.
Are there any other nominations? Okay, seeing none, Ms. Price, if you would take the vote.
Chair Campbell.
Nancy Rainier.
Mr. King.
Nancy Rainier.
Ms. Phillips.
Nancy Rainier.
Ms. Rainier.
Nancy Rainier?
Ms. Smith.
Nancy Rainier.
And Mr. Barrett.
Nancy Rainier.
Thank y'all. That's very sweet. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations to you two.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you for your leadership. Next on your agenda, you have the ENA service agreement. Mr. Anderson?
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Gilbert. Good evening, Board. Yeah. We are in a situation that we are in a purchasing group that is purchases our internet service through ENA networks, and the purchasing group is Sweetwater. There has been a situation that has been brought on by another competitor with AT&T contesting that the bid wasn't done appropriately, and so that is now up for discussion. At this point, the organization that determines who actually has the right contracts is a group called, the Federal Communications Commission has hired a group called Universal Services Administration Company, and they determine whether the bids were run efficiently or not, or appropriately. They have, for the last 2 years, have held up on paying ENA for the portion of the bill which comes from the E-rate funds to the organization. Now, we pay between $5,000 and $6,000 a month typically for that service, with ENA getting the difference through the E-rate plan. What's happened right now is due to the contesting of the bid, that they have said that they've withheld the funds to pay for the services for the last 2 years. On the second page of the first document I gave you, which is copied from the TOS letter, it says that AT&T has had a contract since 2008 that all 144 Tennessee school districts could use to purchase technology service. Today, only 12 school districts are using AT&T services. 89% of Tennessee school districts use ENA services, and we have 43 school districts in the same situation that we are in right now, where the funds are being withheld. On the third page of the information I gave you, which is a payment plan, what this payment plan is the ENA organization needs to get funds to continue. They have funded it themselves all this time, and they need to get funds to continue providing services to these 43 school districts. They've approached us. Dr. Gilbert was there. Ms. Baker was there. They've approached us on picking up either back monies or forward monies and agree to pay them. We fully anticipate that a decision will be made in a reasonable amount of time, and we are very hopeful that the funds will be there and that ENA will be paid in full through the E-rate monies. The monies that are at stake here is in the preamble of this document. The second whereas is it's $236,280 per year is what the services cost for the internet access for our school system. So you can see the difference is roughly $70,000 a year to $236,000. We have to pick up the difference of that at this time to cover then you make sure we are guaranteed the services for this coming year. So that's the situation we are in. We are asking you to approve a agreement to pay ENA this additional amount, and you can see it would start on October 1st, and we would pay $19,690 per month for this services. As I said earlier, we anticipate that we will receive this money when the decision is finally made. We are very hopeful of that. There are legislators involved in Washington. There are local legislators involved. And actually, the state of Tennessee Department of Education also is part of this group that we are in, which I think adds a little bit of credibility to our case. So that's where we are right now. And I'd probably be best to ask if you have any questions on what we're asking to be done at this point.
Okay, Ms. Renier?
Where would this money come from?
We would have to take this out of the fund balance monies that we would have, and we're going to come back and we would have to eventually, by doing this, would basically be a resolution to take money out of fund balance to pay for this, and it would be monthly. We're hopeful before the end of the year this stuff is decided and it's taken care of, but that's where we would have to get the funds for it because it's not budgeted at this time.
That's what I thought. The other question is, you said something about a difference of $6,000 or $7,000. What was that? Because I don't see that in here.
No, we pay right now between $6,000 and $7,000 per month.
Okay.
And this one is what it's going to cost us per month is $19,690 per month. No, I'm sorry, we pay between $5,000 and $6,000. It's $5,500 to $6,000 per month, and the difference is to $19,600. So that's a substantial increase, and that's what E-rate would typically cover on a monthly basis.
The $19,000 is the difference, or you're saying the difference between the $6,000 to the $19,000?
The difference is we would have to pay $19,600. That would be the full cost of the internet access. We are currently paying between $5,000 and $6,000. So obviously the difference is between that. It's about $13,000.
Okay.
It is a substantial difference that E-rate pays for.
Do we pay this over 12 months, or is it just the 10-month contract? What is it?
It is a 12-month contract.
Ms. Phillips?
I have 2 or 3 questions, please. First of all, how long are we locked into this contract?
Actually, at the end of this year will be the end of the contract.
The end of the December, or are you talking about the financial year?
Probably.
It goes through June 30th.
Okay, so the financial year, and then that is a significant difference. But you do expect to get that money returned to us when the case is resolved. Is that?
We fully hope so. There's legal teams involved with this, and Dr. Gilbert and Ms. Kelly were there to hear the same discussions I heard. They are very hopeful that it will be taken care of because now the state of North Carolina is involved as well. So we have legislators from 2 states dealing with this situation.
Because right now it's not a very competitive rate when you add all that additional $19,000 every month. And my last thing is, would you explain E-rate for the folks at home? Because we say E-rate will take what normally takes care of this, and I'm not sure folks normally know what that is.
E-rate is the way, in lieu of paying taxes, the E-rate monies are established, and it comes through the library's funds, and the money is given to school districts and libraries to pay for internet access by the government. So it's money in lieu of taxes to us, in lieu of fees, and the federal government says to get the districts connected, they make these E-rate funds available. And so we are fortunate to receive a substantial amount of E-rate monies. Every district does, but it as you can see, the difference in the bill that we pay versus what we would pay if we didn't would really limit our ability to get internet access. And you can imagine some of the rural school districts that even have less of the connectivity that we do.
Thank you, because I think that helps the folks really understand what's going on. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so what you're saying is, right now, we're going to start paying $19,690 a month for our internet services.
Yes, sir.
Where we have been paying $5,000 to $6,000.
Yes, sir.
And we are hoping that E-rate is going to reimburse us that $13,000 to $14,000 a month by the end of the school year.
Yes, sir. And the way it's structured, if we are paying, say we pay 4 months, they would give us back the difference of what E-rate didn't cover, so we'd be back to our regular rate again.
And then they would pick it up after that, or we would go back to the regular rates after that?
We'll go back to our regular rates after that if this is settled and finalized but before that. But we're still going to have to go out for a bid at the end of this fiscal year.
For internet services?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Do you suppose that because the providers are limited, that when we have to look again, we'll go back with this company?
Well, it's got to go through a fair competition, and right now the only two that I'm aware of is AT&T and ENA. And so it would probably be those two. There may be some other players in the game, but I don't know of them as yet.
And it seems from what I've read that AT&T doesn't have the underground cables or connectivity that this company has, and for that reason, people are not choosing them.
Well, they all share the networks to some extent for efficiencies for them, and basically AT&T is our provider for telephone services, so they're already there, and ENA provides our internet service for the hitting out to the internet. So that's the big difference for us. AT&T has always been a provider for the telephone services, or what we call hardwire services, whereas now we have our internet access is all non-hardwire. It's all optics.
And did this, when you're saying that AT&T provides this telephone service, is that the voice over phones?
No, they provide the hardwire, the copper wire into the buildings. For example, most of our schools still use copper wire coming into the buildings. We have some schools that are on what's called VoIP, Voice over Internet Protocol, and all of our emergency systems, like our fire alarms and stuff, they're set up on hard wires.
So you're asking for a motion for this to be accepted, or?
Yes, we're asking for a motion to approve this payment of $19,690 per month beginning on October 1st.
Mr. Barrett and Ms. Smith?
So prior to this, it's been ongoing. ENA has been picking up the difference, and we've only been paying $5,000 to $6,000, correct?
Right, for the last 2 years.
And we're not going to be responsible for what they were covering.
Well,
up until October 1st, and we're going to start picking it up.
Our document here is to move forward, and we didn't want to go back and take any responsibility for the back stuff, so we're going forward.
Okay, which makes sense. Okay.
Ms. Smith?
So is the only alternative to this having no internet service?
Yes.
Okay, well, let's move forward.
Okay. All right, do we have a motion to approve this?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett. We have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. All right, we've had plenty of discussion. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Board. I know that was a tough pill to swallow on that one.
And there are lots of other districts across the state, may I add, that are not happy either, nor was Kelly when she first heard about it. In fact, the lawyers heard about it before the superintendents heard about it, so it's been interesting to say the least. The next one is yours, Mr. Anderson, budget amendments.
Thank you. Budget amendments. The great news is we received more revenues last year than we projected, and the state has what's called a maintenance of effort clause that says we have to maintain our efforts every year in the local funding to pass muster with the state as far as the overall approval of our budget. Well, when we did our budget back in March and April, we didn't know how much more revenues we'd receive, so we had to go ahead and say now for our new budget, to meet the maintenance of effort, we have to actually plug in the numbers that we got. So what we're asking for, and want to show you tonight, is revenue. We anticipate receiving an additional $566,000 in property tax, an additional $601,000 in sales tax coming into our general purpose budget, and this will satisfy the state's maintenance of efforts. And these are numbers that we actually received in our overall budget for last year, so we're comfortable in presenting you with those. and those are the revenue pieces. The city has asked us on our expenditures, when we have things that we know we're going to be over on budget or adjustments, to have you approve them on a more timely basis, meaning every other month or every month, rather than waiting till the end of the year. So we're trying to do that with this. One is when we did the budget on expenditures for the director of schools, we did not build in any additional amounts, and at the time you asked us to increase the budget for the director of schools, so we've increased that as a budget expenditure increase. And we also, on the emergency repairs on the HVA system at Northfield, that cost was $201,610. And so we've added that into our maintenance of plant code. So if you turn to your next page, you can see the revenue is there, where we have increased the revenue by the full amount of money, $566,000 for property tax. And we increased the local option sales tax by $601,000. You can see the previously approved budget and then the final budget. So we're asking for you, when you get ready to vote, we're asking for you to approve these additional revenues in our operating budget. And then on the expenditures, the very next page, we're asking for you to approve the amounts that I just stated, the additional money in the superintendent's line for salary, and the additional monies for the use or for the purchase of the HVAC fix on the, for Northfield. So we're asking for a motion to approve the additional revenues and expenditures into the general purpose 15-16 budget year.
On the following page, where we're talking about special ed instruction, student support, is all of that part of?
No, sir. That was those were notes from another document that somehow got picked up into the file. They shouldn't be there.
Whoops.
That you can put a big X through that page.
They're very detailed. Thank you.
Well, those are notes to ourselves when we're doing budget stuff, and I don't know how it got picked up in there, but it did. But they don't mean anything to the two amendments we just did.
Spent a lot of time trying to understand that.
That was just a trick.
So I move that we accept Mr. Anderson's recommendations to amend the budget as both revenue and, what was the other one?
Expenditures.
Expenditures. Thank you.
I'll second.
All right. Question?
Is this strictly sales tax, or is this our share from the county schools? Or are we not resolved on that yet?
Yes, this is what this is the amount that we received last year of the funds that came through the county to us as sales tax. The city gives us a different, a supplement amount that's separate. They submit the sales tax to the county, and then we get our total share of total county sales tax dollars.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the request. Any other discussion after Mr. Anderson's explanation? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you, Mr. Anderson, very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you. The next item is the proposed capital improvement plan for facilities. As you know, we submit this to the city for their consideration. We need to approve our plan to send to the city so they can see if it fits in with the total capital improvement dollars available for the city. For the 2015-16 school year, and this is a 5-year plan. You've seen this plan at the board retreat. I have made one change, and I'll discuss that when I get to that line item. The Hobgood addition, we are currently under construction for that, so we included that as this year. The Bradley restroom, dining room, and classroom renovation project, we are proposing to do that, so we have the restrooms, et cetera, down by the gymnasium and the cafeteria. We have already started and finished the conversion of the 2 classrooms there, but there is another one that's a classroom currently, and we're going to switch that into an intervention room and take over some of that space for public restrooms. For those of you who've ever been at Bradley during a basketball game, there are no restroom facilities to speak of. They have to go all the way down and around the hall. So we're asking for that to be in the first year. And the next piece is the Energy Efficiency Schools Initiative. I have received from the state of Tennessee a loan document at 0% interest, but a 0.75 for maintenance on it of $2,140,000 to do the items that I have listed there, the new LED lighting for Cason Lane, Black Fox, and Bradley, gym LED lighting at John Pittard, Irma Siegel, and Scales, and HVAC retro commissioning controls at Cason Lane, Black Fox, Northfield, Irma Siegel, and Scales. We are proposing that as two parts, a year one and a year two, because the funding in this is the first section is funds that are coming that I already have committed from the state. When I get to the second one, phase two, that's money we're asking the city to put together, and I'll get to that in just a minute. In year two, Black Fox, we're asking to add an additional 10 classrooms to make the capacity of that school as 1,000. As you know, the core facility of that school was originally designed as 1,000 when classrooms held 25-to-1 pupil-teacher ratios. With our ratio being closer to 20-to-1 overall, that means the core facility could handle 10 additional classrooms, which will hold another 200 students, which puts them at a max capacity of 1,000. So we've asked for that addition there. And based on the growth we anticipate on that side and the additional programs we have, we feel that that will work really well. The second part of the energy efficiency is the part I just mentioned. It's up to another $2.5 million to do these other energy efficiency things. The chiller replacement at Cason Lane and Black Fox, that is what we did at Northfield this time. It's going to happen. They're all in that same basic, they're the same exact design. So we got it in our energy efficiency program. Our boiler replacement at Northfield and Black Fox, those also are at the same age of when they're going to start deteriorating and breaking down. And window and HVAC replacement at Bellwood, Bradley, and Mitchell Nielsen. As you know, we have through the window air conditioners, the old system, and we want to upgrade that to a different system for us to use at our schools for, obviously, it helps the environment for learning. So those are the items on the energy efficiency thing. The city would have to agree to fund that. So it's there as everything here, the city has to agree to fund these, but we need to get the board's agreement before we can take it to the city. The next one is a new bus garage. Oh, yes, ma'am.
I'll wait till you're finished with that, with the rest of that year. Go ahead.
Okay. The next one is a new bus garage. That is the one that was moved up from year 4 to year 2. We have been talking with the city. They're looking for any city-owned property right now. If they can find some appropriate city property, we have a budget item of $2.5 million. We have totally outgrown that facility. It has maintenance and transportation in there. Every day we have over 100 cars come into a little parking lot. We are parking in our neighbor's parking lot. We are parking on both sides. We're parking behind. And so we're just outgrown it. So we've asked the city if they would use that as a consideration of giving us the new bus garage at that time in year 2.
Mr. Campbell, when would you like us to just throw out a comment? At the end of each year?
Why don't we let Mr. Anderson complete this, and then we'll come back with questions.
Okay.
Okay, in year 3, we anticipate having to build another school facility, and the reason for that is in the city's long-range plan, the next 20 years, they're projecting that we're going to have many more students. We'll have to be building approximately 5 to 6 new schools in the next 20 years. Which means we have to be building a school every 3 to 4 years. So by putting this in year 3 and opening up during the 2018, opening up the school in 2018, that would put us on that correct schedule. So we don't know what part of town is yet. We're looking at all the growth and where it's happening and talking with the city, but we're asking for that to be done in year 3. Year 4. Replacement of student-teacher computers. Our computers will be at that time 5 and 6 years old, and we're going to ask for replacement of those in a capital outlay expenditure so we can continue with our current technology upgrades. And then replacement of the HVAC chiller at Irma Siegel. Again, that's the same thing that we did at Northfield, but we couldn't get it in the energy efficiency loan, so we had to put it in here. And that school is the newer of the schools, so we put it at the last one to be done. And year 5, just to continue monitoring the growth, and review our roof replacement plan. We do thermal scans of our roofs to detect any potential leaks in them, and we had that done a few years ago, and we'll be going back and doing it again in a few years to see where we need to upgrade. So that's basically the 5-year plan that we are presenting to the city. And I'd be glad to answer any questions.
All right, we got questions now. Ms. Phillips?
Mine is more of a comment. Looking at this Black Fox edition, we are talking about the financial aspects, the planning aspects, and that's important. That is important. But I also think it's important for us to have a dialogue about whether we believe in large schools, the philosophical debate of the difference between smaller schools and what that means to the children as far as, and families as far as engagement, learning. And I see you're nodding over there, Dr. Gilbert. And the larger school, taking this up to 1,000 school capacity. I think there's meat on that bone that we need to discuss. Instead of just moving directly always ahead with, the other aspects, which are indeed important. So just something I want to throw out.
Okay. Ms. Smith?
That's well said, Ms. Phillips, and I think very important for us to consider. And I would love to hear Dr. Gilbert's thoughts about that. And honestly, my question before you made such a great statement was about, I thought that we might, monetarily this might be an issue, but I thought we would be opening a school faster than the 2017-2018 year.
The reason we put it 3 years out is because of the addition of 200 spaces at Hobgood, 200 spaces at Black Fox. That's 400. That's basically a half a school. And we still have some capacity at Cason Lane and Overall Creek to handle some on that side.
So with the growth, not that the pattern that we're seeing, that with the constant growth, you do think that will be taken care of, and we'll be able to not have overcrowding. We already have portables.
We have. If you're talking about at Reeves Rogers, those have been there for a long time. Yes.
I thought we just went back into some portables at Reeves Rogers.
Yes,
they've been sitting there, but now they're being used.
Yes, they're being used, and we'll be bringing to you a rezoning plan to match up with Hobgood additions, and we hope to be able to take care of that situation for next year.
Okay, so the answer to your question is you don't think that we need to pull that back in? And if we did, the conversation about what Ms. Phillips has to say, comes into play as well, about the smaller school versus larger school dialogue.
I think we do have to. I think we need to have that conversation before we build our next school. Yes, would I like to see smaller schools? Absolutely. I think it's extremely hard with the growth we've had, but there's no doubt that I would rather see a couple hundred students less. I do think with Overall Creek, with the 2-story, it has helped some of that. It just the sense of the school, not necessarily the number of students that we're dealing with in a school. But I would love to see a smaller school, and I think maybe that's a discussion we need to have before we start talking about the brand new school. But I think it's hard with the economy, and it's hard with the kind of growth that you have. And I think that probably most directors of schools would agree with me on both of those points. But I would love to see 800-student school even smaller.
So it's just, if we're talking about that and then yet we're wanting to commit to bring Black Fox up to 1,000, I have a real hard, we should have that dialogue before we before we decide this, unless you just feel like there's just no choice but to go ahead because of the growth, than to add the 10. I
think with Black Fox, I'm not sure that there is a choice, frankly, with that one. I think there might be the potential to have a discussion before the brand new school. With Black Fox, you already have a core there that's for 1,000 students, and I think that certainly helps. So I think we would have a very difficult fiscal argument for not adding on to that particular school. I do think that we need to have a discussion, though, before we build the new school. And I think a lot of it's going to depend on how rapid the growth is.
Well, thank you. Thank you for listening.
I was at Hobgood last Friday reading and went outside and looked at the 10 classroom addition. Not only do they need the room, but that's going to require, I think, more custodial help during the daytime as well. You start putting 10 more classrooms and all the other things we're putting there, and I think that's something, as we look at adding to schools, and I would assume Black Fox would be the same thing if we do that, but it's one man at Hobgood all day by himself. It's kind of tough to keep up everything going. Just keeping paper towels in the restrooms would be a chore. All right, Mr. Barrett?
I was just going to talk about what Nancy brought up about. I would be in favor of that too, but we just don't have the luxury. You know, the growth we're having, it's going to keep coming. I just don't think we have that luxury to do that. We're going to have to add on to Black Fox, and I think I even agree with Collier. We might have to jump up that. You know, I'm afraid we're going to have so much growth, we're going to miss the boat, and we're going to be. We were going to be kicking ourselves for not opening up that school sooner. But I know this is what we have, but I just don't think I'd love to, but I just don't think we have that luxury. I think we'd have to expand that.
Ms. Renier and then Ms. Phillips.
Mr. Anderson, you mentioned that you're going to come back with a rezoning proposal. Is that going to affect more than just Hobgood first?
Well, we have to move some students around from schools. We have to take some out of Reeves Rogers.
Right.
Hobgood will add students to because of the additional space that they have there, and we need to take some students and move from John Pittard.
Right. So that was what I'm leading to. When we do this, can we get to it and delve deeply enough so that we don't have to do it again 2 years later? We just need to be conscious of our parents and children and
right.
Yeah.
And I think that would be the ideal thing. Now, who knows what will happen with growth? I mean, I don't think we could have projected. One thing I will say, in talking with the city manager and projecting the 2035, it sounds like a lot of schools, but then when you look back for that number of years past, it's really no more than what we've already added.
I was with the mayor at Adventures in Learning Monday. I had to introduce him, and he discussed the 2035 plan, how many residents are expected to be here by that time, and the number of schools and firehouses and additional police and firemen and EMTs and everything that would be needed. So it's kind of mind-boggling, but we all know it's going to happen. So yeah, thank you.
Ms. Phillips?
I just had one last little follow-up comment, building on what Ms. Smith and Mr. Barrett said. You know, my thought is we kind of know what we want. We have a vision of what would be best for our school system and for our kids and our family. But my fear is if we put off building that school another year, we're going to be locked into how can we manage the growth? We need to manage it right now. How many classrooms can we get? Instead of being able to plan with vision. And I want us to be able to plan with vision about what kind of school system we want to create. And so I feel like if we are not proactive in doing it and looking at it earlier than what's proposed here, we won't be able to plan with vision. So that's just a thought.
Good comment. Ms. Smith?
And I don't want to dismiss the thought of our having a small school. I would like to see how much would it cost for us to have a small school instead of the larger school. I mean, I know it will cost more to have 2 small schools monetarily, but maybe it might be best for our students. So if there's any way for us to seek some kind of monetary proposal on that, I don't know how we could follow up on that. I'd like to see.
What magic number do you consider a small school?
I would say 600 to 800.
Okay. Mr. King?
Ms. Smith that's kind of what I was thinking about was, I say 500. and just using a generality, we've got the estimated costs here. So rather than building a school for 1,000, what if we built 2 schools for 500? Would it, in theory, be the same cost, or would half a school be half the cost? And in theory, and then would you need a smaller footprint of land, and would that help keep the cost? I see us. Where's the room in town? How much land? How big a footprint are we going to need for a normal size Black Fox type, Northfield type of school? I can't think of anywhere in town right off the top of my head that we could fit one. And that's where I would think a smaller one might work, because of we could squeeze them in easier.
Now, I was being generous in my numbers. 500 sounds fantastic.
When you look, Hobgood's at 500 almost. Reeves Rogers 500. Yeah, we've already got them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like I said, it's just an idea, just a concept.
One thing
Ms. Phillips?
One thing we used to do in the building is that we would build with smaller classrooms, but with a larger core capacity with the cafeteria and the gym. So if push came to shove, you could increase because you had the capacity, very much like what we're seeing here at Fox. And that sometimes allows you a little wiggle room if you build with a larger core. But anyway.
Well, I think that's part of the situation with Black Fox. It's already built for a core of 1,000, because when it was built, you had 25 students in a class, and now you don't have that. So instead of a classroom wide, instead of for 1,000, it's for 800. But adding the classrooms you would not have to build all new core facilities, which is a lot of area,
a lot of money.
Yeah.
Mr. Anderson, do we revisit this plan every year? Do we not submit?
Yes, we look at this plan every year. This
Right.
plan can adjust up or down. These are what we would call a placeholder for the city council. Understand that, hey, we're going to come to you for funding for a new school. It may be a year earlier, maybe a year later, but it's a placeholder on their budget calculation.
It's really a kind of on notice, and even in past years, I know I was surprised to see a school in the 5-year plan, and I know I was told, well, typically we expect to see a school in the 5-year plan. So I want to make the board aware that we do revisit this every year, so if we need to make adjustments and have time to look at really what we want when it comes time for that, then we would be able to do that.
Mr. Anderson, what is the recommendation from the state or the requirements, say, for acreage for 500 students?
They really don't have that. It's based on they do that for square footage inside a building. They don't do it for the outside. We look for basically 25 acres for a school of 1,000, and yeah, it depends on where we are.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments to Mr. Anderson? Mr. Barrett?
So we can revisit this
Right.
next year,
We
because the
revisit
growth is
every
going to
year.
keep coming. If we
Right.
see it, then we can say we need a new
We
school.
submit one
Okay.
every year. We submit to
All
the
right.
city
I just want to
council.
make sure we're
Right.
aware of that, because I want the wiggle room there for that.
Yeah, if anything, I'd say we probably ought to talk about this every 6 months, because this growth and managing the growth is the one thing I think that the people of Murphysboro want us to watch out for, is we don't need to get caught behind. I actually was looking at this that we got on our retreat, and Murphysboro built a new school every 4 years, sometimes every 2 years, sometimes they went 6 years. And I was noticing this. I was talking to Mr. Campbell, Dr. Gilbert about this. 64, they built Mitchell Nilsson.
No, Mitchell Nilsson was built in
the 50s.
I forgot which one was built in 64. And they went 23 years without building another school. 1987, they built Northfield. Went 23 years without building a school. But in the 50s, we were building one, averaging every 4 years. So, I mean, it's on one hand, you think, gosh, you're building another school for the 2017-18 school year when we just built Overall Creek. But then again, that was the history of Murphysboro in the 50s, roughly. So we're not doing anything new, so to speak. But I believe this is probably one of the major things that we as a board need to stay on top of. Even if we're just talking about it, I think this is a big issue that could, it's going to have an impact on everybody in town, everybody.
Thank you.
Mr. Anderson, thank you very much. Appreciate the report.
Yes, sir. And we would need to get a approval from the board to present this to the city council for their consideration.
All right.
So moved.
Do we have a motion to approve? Ms. Renier makes the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. King. Is there any other discussion?
Can you
Ms.
add?
Smith?
So on that line for the new school facility, I guess, is there any way to word it so that it's we may need more than one facility because of growth? I don't know how to say exactly that we're going to run out of space, but we are considering, two small facilities versus 1,000 person facility. Mr. Washington, I know you have great thoughts on that.
For the public, Gary and Dr. Gilbert and sometimes me, we meet the first Friday, so this conversation is real good. But the council and the mayor, they're well aware of what your needs are and the growth. I give him numbers all the time, so he knows. But Ms. Renier made some real good comments because you all are competing with West Side Park, police, fire, and all kind of other needs that the city is going to have to address. Mr. Lance and Councilman Lance now on that task force for that 2035 plan, and it's overwhelming, the numbers that I'm seeing, and how the city is going to meet those needs. I don't have a clue. The transportation, the road infrastructure, you got annexation issues. Now, with the legislature, and you got them, they're not really helping cities out, to be honest with you. So I'm a short timer. So, it's going to be very challenging. But I think you need to pursue exactly what you're doing and see how it fits. But personally, I don't have a clue. I don't know how you do that. You're talking about a whole bunch of money and a whole bunch of hoops you got to stumble over to get where you want to be, because you need to have sewer at these sites. And on the water sewer board, I don't see the ratepayers jumping through any hoops to extend sewer when you can't annex. It makes no sense. So good luck to you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Barrett.
Well, I know Kyler mentioned something like this, but could we put a caveat on that year 3 that we might need it for 16, 17? I know you say they're aware, but I want to make sure they are aware that we get it in writing. Oh, I know you're saying it to us, but I want to make sure they're aware and it's in writing.
We like it in writing.
We like it in writing. We hear a lot of things, but we like to see stuff in writing.
So you would like to move up the part about the new school facility into the 16, 17
Not so much
school
move it
year?
up, just put a caveat there. We may need it 16, 17. Just something right after the price tag or something in there that says they need to move it up. Might have to move it up.
And we've been pushing the city manager and mayor to go on and have our CIP process, hopefully, and I hope he's listening because I've been telling him, hopefully, in the next 30 to 60 days. So this is good to have.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever you want to do now, get in line.
I'm just worried we're not going to keep up. We're
Because
seeing the numbers.
I don't want to see portables myself, be honest with you.
No.
And fall behind the 8 ball. But you know, I hope taxpayers are listening to me, that, you know, you in an environment where people are not real, when you raise up something about raising taxes and that kind of stuff, it don't go over too well. But, you know, somewhere down the road, you know, our folk, and I hope they're listening to me, you know, that those that have moved here in the last 10 or 15, 20 years, you know, you got to pay your price. You know, I mean, and growth costs. And pay up or shut up.
Thank you. Good advice. All right, I think we need more discussion on this. Are we ready to vote? We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please, ma'am.
So are we voting including that caveat that that
You have to amend your motion.
Well, you'd have to amend the motion to accept what's here.
Oh, I made the motion. I made the motion.
Okay. You
so
want
the
to amend your
will be
motion?
that we want to submit this proposal to the city council or the mayor or the city manager, whomever it goes to, for the proposed capital improvement plan with the amendment or caveat that Mr. Barrett mentioned about just some sentence saying perhaps this might be needed a year earlier, basically.
Thank you.
Can I speak to that?
Let me see if I get a second to that amendment.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Phillips. Now, Mr. Anderson?
Yes, what we have is opening up for the year one, where it says 2015-16, Hobgood's addition will open up in fall of 2016. Black Fox is designed to open fall of 2017, and then a new school in 2018. If you want to move that new school up to 2017, we've got to make that decision by December, because it takes us a year and a half for planning and going through the design, purchase, and stuff. We would have to make that decision very rapidly. So I'm going to say, if you're going to move it up there, we got to decide if we're going to do it then.
Okay. We have an amendment, and we have a second to the amendment. Now, we have any other discussion on the amendment?
Maybe we could have a retreat to discuss this and then come up with that motion to come back the next meeting.
I think we need to go ahead. Don't we need to go ahead and get this SIP plan in?
I think we need to get a plan to the city council.
You need to move forward.
Right, but I think Ms. Rainier meant that we would we would go ahead and submit it, but then we would have a retreat to talk about whether we wanted to literally move it up.
Change it.
Right.
Okay.
Did I understand you right, Ms. Rainier?
Yes.
All right, so you have a motion for an amendment, and the amendment is to where it says new school facility, to add a sentence in there indicating that there's a possibility that this might be needed in the school year 2016-17. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
You have a motion for an amendment, and you have a second. Now, call the roll, please, ma'am, on the amendment.
Okay, Mr. King.
No.
Ms. Phillips.
Aye.
Ms. Rainier.
Aye.
Ms. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Barrett.
Aye.
And Chair Campbell.
Aye.
5 ayes and 1 no.
All that means is we're indicating in there that's what we'd like to do. Now, the amendment has passed, so now we're going to vote on the motion as amended. Correct?
I thought that all was at one time, but
No, we had an amendment. Am I right, Kelly?
Yes.
Okay.
sorry.
So we have a motion on the floor as amended. Now we're going to vote on the motion as amended. Call the roll, please, ma'am.
Ms. Phillips.
Aye.
Ms. Rainier.
Aye.
Ms. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Barrett.
Aye.
Chair Campbell.
Aye.
And Mr. King.
Aye.
Okay. All right, next item.
Okay, the next item, this is the best part of the night. well, no offense to those making presentations, I'm sorry. Cheapers. You have before you 5 names for tenure. Those folks are Karen Blooding at Bradley, Lindsay Cole at Scales, Rosalind DeMumbrum at Northfield, Andrew McKnight at Black Fox, and Kelly Ruth at Northfield. And it is the board's responsibility to vote on those folks to give them tenure.
I have a motion to accept these 5 for tenure.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. King. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. And congratulations to those 5. Are we ready for special ed?
We are. Well, Mr. Marlin, that's your clue. As you know, we began an integrated preschool program. This fits into the master plan goal 1 and has to do with meeting the unique needs of all of our different subgroups. And so Mr. Marlin is here tonight with his entourage, I might add, who look much better than Mr. Marlin.
Thank you. Thank you. I couldn't agree more. Let me start, and I don't have my glasses on, so that's probably smarter to do that. Before I introduce these ladies, let me say the board asked in the last meeting, last month, that we give you an update on our integrated preschool program. And so I thought rather than me do that, it'd be better coming from the folks who actually who work along. And we even have some teachers with us tonight, and some may want to even share an experience or two with us. So ladies, if you would like to share, come on up while these ladies are presenting, and we'll let them get started. But let me introduce to you, this is our preschool assessment team. These are the 3 ladies that do all the testing of our students. They're the first people that our students meet, their families meet when they come to Murphysboro City Schools when they have a child with a disability. So these 3 ladies do all the testing, and they do the eligibility meetings and meet with the parents to let them know how school operates, and they introduce them to the school system. So I thought they'd be really good for them to speak to you tonight, let you know how the program's going, what changes we've made, and what a difference it's made so far in the program. Ladies.
Thank you. I'm Lynn Hood. I'm the speech language pathologist with the integrated preschool program. I, along with myself and Kelly Blanchard, our school social worker, and Kelly Heflin, our school psychologist, make up this preschool assessment team. I'd like to thank you for having us here tonight. I know we're all excited to report on the current state of our program. I'd like to start with a vision statement. Many of you may not be familiar with this. The Murphysboro City Schools Integrated Preschool Program values the education and uniqueness of each individual student. It is home to active learners who are engaged in differentiated and authentic learning in a safe environment. Growth is demonstrated through self-expression in social and academic experiences. Our programs foster supportive classrooms where children, families, schools, and communities work together to establish a love of learning. What are the values to which we adhere? We want to provide a supported, structured environment for our children. We want collaboration with families, professionals, and the community. We want engagement of all students in developmentally appropriate activities, and we want achievement in all developmental areas. Those include social skills, adaptive skills, fine and gross motor skills, communication, and cognitive skills.
Tonight we're going to focus on 3 different areas of our program this year: the improved home-school connection, the addition of typical peers to our classrooms, and then the changes in the service delivery of our therapies. When compared to the beginning of last school year, there have been an increase in social work referrals for this school year. Most of those referrals were for basic needs items, including clothing, food, housing concerns, and I even had a request for an iron. I was able to access various community resources to assist families in meeting these needs. These community resources included the Goodwill Cares Clothing Program, Barnabas Vision, Murphysboro Housing Authority, and Greenhouse Ministries. Overall, the community resource linkage has aided in student stability and family stability in increasing their functioning in the school setting. During the 2014-15 school year, all transition meetings for children turning 3 and receiving state services through TEIS were held at central office. Sometimes those meetings couldn't be held at central office due to family schedules and transportation issues, so they were held in the family's home. Overall, the meetings that took place in the home just fostered a better relationship with the family from the very beginning. So this year we're doing all transition meetings in the family's homes. So myself, the TEIS service coordinator and family, has that meeting in the home. And it's really a chance for us to see the child in the environment that they're most comfortable in. And overall, those have gone really well and really fostered a good relationship with families from the beginning. And then lastly, I'm going to touch on a collaborative effort with our general education pre-K. For general education pre-K screenings that took place back in May, myself and the preschool coordinator worked together to identify students who could possibly benefit from special ed services at the forefront. So children who needed speech and language support or who scored really low on their pre-K entrance testing. This collaboration so far this year has aided in the placement of 2 children already in a special education classroom setting. And additionally, it's provided for increased special ed support for children regarding speech and language as well. And we're hoping that this collaborative effort continues because we really feel like it's provided for earlier identification and intervention for students in that setting.
We are also looking at this year an increased focus on child find. Last school year, 115 students were identified, screened, and evaluated by our preschool assessment team. That is an increase from 71 during the 2013-2014 school year. The preschool team will be hosting child find events at various schools throughout the school year, and information will be publicized via a number of different promotional avenues, and parents will be provided the opportunity to schedule an appointment for these events so they won't have to come and stay all day. We've also compiled a list of various community agencies, daycares, and physicians' offices and have begun visits to these locations to discuss how to refer for those early intervention services should there be some concerns. Another exciting change for this school year is the implementation of peer models within our program. Right now, each classroom has 4 to 5 peer models within that classroom, and the population is combined from both children of MCS employees as well as 4-year-old children that are zoned for Murphysboro City Schools. Each candidate is individually screened to assess present levels in relation to those skills across developmental domains. We want to make sure that those peer models are the best of the best for our students. Each child is given a cognitive language screener, an articulation screener. We complete an observation with same-age peers to ensure that they have appropriate social engagement. We also gather parent input of what that child's strengths and weaknesses are. And we also ask for daycare or preschool teacher input, if applicable, if they're in those programs. So what is a peer model? A peer model is typically developing students who can serve as models of age-appropriate skills in both language and behavior. The peer models are able to promote higher level of engagement within the classroom. And as serving as peer tutors, it also helps them because it gives them the opportunities that lead to higher levels of confidence and increased leadership skills. Why it's beneficial? Research is showing that peer models can provide opportunities that cannot be replicated in just a special education program only. It does also follow the least restrictive environment model as outlined by IDEA for our students with disabilities. And our program this year has received a grant, so we're partnered with Dr. Robin McWilliam at Siskin Children's Institute in Chattanooga. So we're looking at increased student engagement. We're following the engagement model in our program. Studies show that students in inclusive settings are more engaged, and therefore it leads to higher achievement of student goals, which is why we do what we do.
Okay, I'd like to highlight some of the changes in service delivery this year. In 2014-2015, therapy services were provided through individual and small group pullout. Pullout therapy involved students being pulled out of their classrooms into a therapist's room to address goals and receive services. For 2015-2016 school year, therapy services are being provided by integrating services directly into that preschool classroom. What does integrated therapy look like? Integrated therapy is when therapy and specialized instruction occur in the classroom, usually with other children present, and in the context of ongoing daily routines and activities. Okay, from a therapist's perspective, integrated therapy allows therapists to learn about the children's individual strengths and weaknesses in their everyday settings. It allows therapists to explore during which part of the day the child is struggling most to communicate. It also allows therapists to share contexts and strategies in which the student is successful. In this model, therapists are encouraged to support the teachers and the teaching partners with materials to facilitate intervention in the classroom setting. I'd like to share a quote from a perspective of one of our preschool speech pathologists regarding integrated therapy. She says, "The integrated therapy model allows the speech pathologist to help the teacher and classroom staff facilitate and support communication throughout a child's day. In this traditional model, it's easy to view communication and articulation as the domain of only the speech pathologist. With the integrated model, we seek to empower the classroom teacher to take daily responsibility for speech and language intervention." So why are integrated therapy services preferred? There are many reasons that integrated therapy services are preferred, but I'd like to highlight a few here. They're preferred to traditional pull-out therapy services because they allow the children to learn the skills they need in the place that they'll be using them. They allow the children to have increased practice opportunities. It allows the children to foster social relationships. They're preferred so that a child does not miss out on any classroom activities. They're preferred so that children can see they're preferred so that teachers can see, rather, what the therapists are doing to help expand their skills to help the children. They're preferred so therapists can see whether or not the strategies that they're recommending are feasible, so that teachers and therapists can focus on the skills that will be immediately useful for a child, so that therapists can work with teachers and address problems as they arise, so that assessments can be done across a variety of routines, and most importantly, because it's the right thing to do. So that's what we want to do for our children. Integrated therapy from a teacher's perspective allows all teachers and learning partners to become therapists throughout the week. It's not just restricted to that 1 or 2 times a week for 30 minutes that a therapist is in a classroom. It will be occurring ongoing throughout each day the child is at school. Also, if the goals are functional and attached to routines, any activity or toy in that classroom can be used to address a specific developmental skill. I'd like to share a quote from the perspective of one of our integrated preschool teachers. "The integrated preschool program has improved communication between teachers and therapists, and they allow us to address problems as they arise. We are better able to critique what we are doing in the moment and modify as needed."
We've addressed program benefits through the eyes of the teachers and the therapists, so now we're going to share some additional insight from the parents of some of those students in the integrated preschool program, as well as administrators at the school. So it's just a handful of input that we have gotten from these individuals that they would like for us to share. The first one, with my son, I've seen a significant amount of growth in his social abilities being in a structured preschool program along peers without disabilities. They have been able to be language and social models for him, which have assisted in his growth. Everyone can be a peer to another child in some way because everyone's strengths and weaknesses are different. In regards to pushing services in, kids make more progress and are able to generalize skills more effectively in an integrated preschool than learning a skill in one setting and being expected to use it in a different setting.
And this one is from one of our school administrators. We absolutely love the entire program. I can't imagine singling out one facet such as the peer models. Honestly, each piece is critical to the success of all of the learners. Together, they all learn better, academically, socially, and emotionally. The pre-K classrooms present real-world learning, increase differentiation, raise the rigor for academics as well as behavior. It really is quite magical to visit.
And this is a parent from one of our typical peers. My daughter is a typical peer in one of the integrated preschool classes. Since beginning school, she is coming home every day telling me what she has learned and created in class. She is learning to spell words, identify numbers, and problem solve in creative ways. More importantly, she is learning how to work in a team and create friendships. My daughter's teacher told me that one day during lunch, the kids were having a discussion about what made each of them special. Each child was able to share something special about themselves, and peers contributed by pointing out each other's strengths, all in pre-K. I cannot stress enough the incredible impact this program will have on all of the participants' lives. The relationship for the kids is mutually beneficial, and they all have a lot to learn from one another.
And then one more quote from another parent. My son has the opportunity to participate in the integrated preschool this year. He is absolutely thriving in the program and enjoys school every day. I am so happy that he can be part of a program in which he can learn that all learners have unique needs. He can learn firsthand that each person learns and interacts with their environment in different ways. He can be an example for his friends in the areas of communication, motor skills, social skills, and so much more. He has the opportunity to not only teach his friends, but to also learn from them too. He gets the chance to learn empathy and see how others work hard and in different ways to meet their individual goals. My husband and I could not be more appreciative for the teachers and staff that make the learning environment such a wonderful place for him and all of his classmates every day.
And before I let some other folks speak, if you're involved with the preschool program, would you stand up? Because they just wanted to come tonight. We didn't force anybody to be here, but we asked them if they had something to say or if they just wanted to be here to show their support, ask them to come tonight. So let's give them a hand. Julie, did you want to say anything? Did you? Yeah, come on up. Roxana, come on. Roxana Dove, Dr. Roxana Dove. She's at Northfield Elementary. She's one of our integrated preschool teachers. We have 7 classrooms, 7 teachers, and we have 14 educational assistants. We call them teaching partners now. That's a term we've learned from Siskin Institute, just because they're such an important part of the classroom. We don't want them to feel like they're any lesser important than they really are, because they do bring so much to the classroom. But let Roxana, I think, and maybe Julie has something to say.
Okay. I just wanted to come and share my appreciation for your support in our program. Last year we set out on a quest to look at other school districts and make some changes to our program, and we just really appreciate your support in being able to do that. Just like all these ladies talked about the benefits, I see that every day in our classroom. My children are verbalizing more. They're imitating those typical peers, or what we like to refer to as our peer tutors in our classroom. They're just doing that more. But I had a parent come to me this week and was telling me what they were doing, what their child, and this is a child with special needs, what she was doing at home. And she said, we haven't worked on that before at home, but she just started doing it on her own. And she said, I know she's seeing those other students at school do it, and she started doing things as well. And this was like a mealtime, started cleaning up after mealtime. So it's just nice to see that they're doing it at school, but it's also important to see that they're carrying over into different settings and taking that learning with them. So I just wanted to say thank you and appreciate your support for making these changes.
I'll try to be brief, but I just wanted to thank you guys, because I know logistically this must have just rocked your world, but you guys made it possible. And day one, I just saw a language explosion, and it's amazing. I consider myself a pretty good teacher, but these little peers in there can do things and get conversations going that, as a teacher, I just can't make happen. So I appreciate your vision and working through the logistics with transportation, nutrition, technical issues, and it means a lot to us, and mostly it means a lot to the kids.
I'll just say one more thing. Today, I had the opportunity to be in a couple of classrooms as I go about my job of observing different people carrying out their duties. And so I was observing a couple of speech therapists today. And I was in Ms. Frazier's class and was watching our speech therapist, Ms. Morris, working with children. And what I saw were kids so totally engaged. They were so busy in one station. And it's hard for me to pick out which one of the typical peers and which one of these are our children with disabilities. But in one station, they were all playing doctor. And in Miss Nika's station, they were all baking. They were rolling out Play-Doh, and they were putting onto pans and putting in the oven. And the kids were just totally involved, and not just for a short period of time. So we had kids who have disabilities and trouble paying attention, trouble communicating, but they were really sticking with it over an extended period of time. And because they're peer helpers, I think that's made a big difference for this year. So I hope that answers some questions that you had about the integrated preschool program. I feel that it's going very well. I do want to say Ms. Fairchild, Angela, if you'll raise your hand. Angela has been really in charge of getting this project moving along, and she's done an excellent job, and the teachers have been so instrumental. What we sort of did was we laid the ideas out for them, and they just took over and took charge, and they're making everything happen. So it's only because we have really good people doing a really good job that things worked out as well as they have. But I hope that if you have any questions, I'd be glad to entertain those.
Ms. Smith and Ms. Phillips.
Well, thank you all for your report. I really have been intrigued by this, and of course, anything that Ms. Fairchild is involved with, I know is going to be successful. So, but what I would like to see is a tracking of the peers, the typical peers, as they go through our system, as well as your regular students.
We've talked about that for this year. One of the things that we've talked about is doing some testing to sort of follow up with them
to
and see where they are at the beginning of the year.
To see their success, to see if this has really given them a leg up. I really can see how that would be, just thinking about my own children, about the assets that how they would have grown differently had they been put in this situation. It sounds wonderful to me.
And not just the academic, also in the social part,
right.
Because they do take on leadership roles, but they've been really sweet and precious to their peers, and so it's been a really, it gives
Can
me
you track sweet and precious, or no?
Ms. Phillips.
Oh my goodness, you all are doing amazing, amazing work, all of you. Thank you. I have, of course, lots of questions. First of all, it's a huge significance with Child Find, the difference between 71 and 115 in 1 year. That's really, y'all are really working hard and doing great work there. Thank you. Another thing is, I just have to make the statement that what you're doing is so significant because we know how much a life can be changed by that early intervention and that hard work that goes on in the classroom. I'm particularly interested in the speech aspect. I'm wondering, come on up. I'm wondering a couple things. I can see how the classroom, doing the therapy within the classroom, I can see how that would work with things like speech delays.
Yes.
I'm not as, and possibly disfluencies. But does the speech therapist still count the disfluencies that the child would have within the minute's time, or how many the child's having, or do they just what would that look like if you were working with a child with speech disfluency?
Sure. So when I'm working with a child with any sort of disfluency, I'd want to look at that in multiple scenarios, in the classroom, in a social setting, on the playground. The integrated model will allow me to address all of those areas in the classroom where the communication need is greatest. So when I'm tracking disfluencies, it won't necessarily be per minute, but I'd like to do perhaps depending on the language sample for that child, I'd like to do a 5-minute engagement sample. It's nothing I could track in the moment. I would have to take a recording of that and then later go back and analyze the data to see.
I was wondering how you would do that.
It would have to, the sample would occur live in therapy in the classroom, and then I would then take that back and do that work later to see how are we progressing. Is he or she using the strategies that we're recommending? How much cueing is needed? And the cueing shouldn't just come from me. It should come from the teachers and the teaching partners, because we don't want that therapy to occur on just that 1 or 2 instances throughout the week. We want them to have that exposure throughout their entire day.
Well, that leads me to a follow-up question. Yes. Some of those things, a great educated classroom teacher like we have, they can pick up on pretty quickly. But do you have some time set aside as a speech therapist to work with the classroom teacher to teach them things like, the chunking or the slower speech or, those things? Do you have that time set aside to kind of demonstrate that for the classroom teacher? Is that?
Well, and again, the beauty of this integrated model is that actual time that you're working with the child, you're working with the teachers and the teaching partner, instructing them on how we're doing, what we're doing, so they can carry that on throughout the week. And then when we come back for the next session, we can report on,
they can report how did it go, what were the strengths, what were the weaknesses, what was the functionality, what do we need to modify for the next time so that we can get the most success possible.
Right. And then my last thing is, let's see, I was curious about what the Suskin, was it the Suskin grant? Siskin grant. What does that do? What does that allow?
Do anybody want to jump here? Siskin is the model they use is the engagement model. So the idea is to engage the child at their interest level on a daily basis, and especially through play.
Right.
So our 3 and 4-year-olds aren't ready for instruction like we think of in regular classroom instruction. So it's instructing them all the time as they're engaged. I'll give you a good example of that. One of the things we put in our classrooms, and I wish we had more pictures. We weren't able to bring all of our pictures with us, but we put light boxes, and light boxes are a table that has a light underneath it and an opaque top, and the children will take objects there, and it's amazing to watch them, because I think we bought the first one in Julie's class, and she said she just loved it because the kids would go and pay attention for a long period of time. And that's those pre-academic skills, being able to pay attention, to be able to focus for extended period of time. It's amazing to watch them as they do that. And so that's just one of the ways that we've incorporated that engagement model, is helping children learn those pre-academic skills of being on task, staying interest, and the best way to do that is taking their own personal interest and moving from there. So that's what our staff is learning, is how to take that opportunity and make sure that we're engaging the child all the time. If you remember, one of the things I mentioned to you when we were talking about this program, one of the benefits was even though we have them for a shorter period of time, they're engaged more consistently throughout that short period of time as they would have been in a much longer day. So that's the engagement model, and that's what Siskin has helped us. They've also helped us with that integrated therapy idea, because that's something that we had not considered until we started working with them. And then some of our folks, well, all of our folks, have been there and visited the schools, and we're actually going back again in October. And some of the people who are new to us are going to go back and take a look at that, so we'll know the model, how to follow it, and what's involved in all of it.
Well, I'm just so impressed, y'all. Thank you so much. And you said it's. Remind me how long you have them, because I forgot. I know you mentioned it. I remembered it when you said it. But
the students, they're in a 3-hour morning session or a 3-hour afternoon session.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's a little bit different than we've done in the past. Anybody else?
Mr. Barrett?
I think it's great. You're planting these seeds, and we're going to see them. We won't see the results this year, but I think over the next couple of years we'll start seeing those results. My questions were, I know you said you pick a mix between MCS employees and community parents. So I know it's your first year. How did you advertise, or how do you get the word out, or how do you give an application?
Well, it was pretty amazing. We did one email out to MCS staff, and then from there, people started coming just by word of mouth.
So soft.
And so and then as we're doing our Child Find events this year, and actually our team did a Child Find event today at Northfield, and had several parents come and bring their children. We're actually finding possible students through that, because lots of times these children won't have any problems and they'll be good peers. And so we are actually creating a waiting list. And I think, do you remember how many MCS employees versus non-employees we had?
They're predominantly employees, I think, and we screened 40 total.
Okay. But I think, was it close? It was maybe 60-40. Okay. We had about 60 MCS employees, and 40% were just.
And what do you remember? And I know there's a cost. How much is the?
We're charging the typical peers. We're charging them $50 a week.
Okay.
For that service, and those children are there all day.
Okay.
Ms. Renier?
That was the question I think that I was just going to ask, because when we talked about this last year, I think you said that these children will be 3 hours, and then the peers would be the entire day. How is that working out?
Ladies?
Well, it's working out great as far as I can tell, and as Mr. Marlin said, it's an engagement model, so that 3 hours seems short, but during that time we're getting just intense language, which in previous years I wasn't seeing. But these models and having the therapy in the classroom giving us strategies to use, it's just a really intensive program. And we can serve more children that way too, because we can serve up to 12 in the morning, and then the typical stay all day, and then have another batch in the afternoon. So
That was my question. So the typical child is going to be there from, let's
Yes,
say,
ma'am.
8 to 2 or whatever? So there's not ESP involved with them?
Well,
unless
the
they stay
typical
beyond
children
that?
can go to ESP, but the special needs children at this time, if they wanted to come to morning ESP, that would be available if they were a morning student, and then, of course, the afternoon, but it has changed that dynamic. But and they can transport, the bus is transporting those children to community daycares if it's on the bus route for the special needs children. So, and that's a great partnership, because then we get to work with the daycares about strategies to incorporate children with special needs in their program, or avenues of child find that way also.
Well, I want to commend you all. When we opened Northfield, we had I guess those were our first comprehensive development classes, and I taught kindergarten, so I had a lot of children that were coming from there. And I think the best thing out of this socialization is the empathy that these children are going to learn, because our students, even my own daughter, would go to bat for some of these children. She told me even when she was at Oakland High School and somebody would make a comment, she jumped in their face. So I think that's just such a great thing, such a great avenue. Thank you so much.
Mr. Marlin, ladies, thank you very much. I guess, Joe, the old adage behind every good man, there's a good woman. But in this case, there are several women. Thank you, ladies. And for those of you sitting down, thank you very much for that wonderful report.
Mr. Campbell?
Ma'am.
I just have to add that we wouldn't have the incredible preschool program if we weren't through the leadership of Dr. Gilbert, who took it on many years ago and just made it bloom and blossom, and it continues to grow and be awesome. Thank you, Dr. Gilbert.
Thank you for your support very much. And also, Mr. Marlin, I know Ms. Fairchild, they have worked in also transportation, food service, all the adjustments we had to make, so thank you. Thank you very much. Our next report is the Extended School Program. This is a 14-15 year in review. This is part of your Master Plan Goal 1, and you have a specific strategy that's actually addressing that, which is increasing the ESP program participation and offerings. So, Mr. Ringstaff.
Thank you. This past year, ESP had another great year, exciting one. This past year, we provided services, homework assistance, other enrichments to over 2,500 students. Each year we continue to grow, and it's because of the great team that we've established, starting with the central office team on down to our site directors, then their staff. In the summer, I'm going to embarrass somebody a little bit, I think. In the summer of 2014, I met with Ms. Powers, who was a classroom teacher, and I explained to Ms. Powers that she could have a big impact on more children inside our district working at ESP throughout the district instead of being a classroom teacher. And she came on board, and she has been phenomenal. She has instituted standards, our Tennessee state standards, in the after-school care and before care enrichments. And we've also enhanced the lesson plans that the staff turn in each week when they teach the class. So I'm going to take a cue from Mr. Joe Marlin and turn this over to someone more knowledgeable than me, Ms. Candy Powers.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ringstaff. Good evening, Board. I'm thrilled to be here tonight to share with you what ESP has been doing over the past year and over the past month into this school year. So I want to give you a little bit of a review, and then I'll jump into some new programming highlights that we're going through right now. It was, as I was creating this PowerPoint, that's not on the screen, actually. As I was creating this PowerPoint, awesome, there we go, I got it. It was very difficult to narrow this down, and I have to say there are 22 slides here, and that's probably twice as many as someone wanted me to use. But it was, like I said, very difficult. And I hope that this gives you a glimpse into some of the programming that happened for our students and all the opportunities that they're presented with, either before school, after school, on a school break, or over the course of a summer. So, in 2014-2015, the Extended School Program enrolled 2,655 children across 12 sites, which was an improvement in attendance over the prior year. We hope to also surpass that attendance this year by continuing to provide quality after-school care and programming. One of the things that ESP did last year and are continuing to do this year are improving our customer service and updating technology during our extended school program. One of those things is the email delivery of monthly newsletters. Thanks to Peach Jar, we are able to send out electronically newsletters, enrichment brochures, things like that, that all parents, not just ESP parents, can take a look at and see what's going on in ESP. We also started online pre-registration so parents can, from the comfort of their couch, pre-register their children for ESP. As an added convenience, we instituted curbside pickup this year and also drop-off, morning drop-off, so parents can pull right up to the curb. We have staff outside. Parents can sign them out and never have to get out of the car. That's particularly useful if you have an infant that you don't want to get out of the car to bring in to sign your child in and out. And it also keeps a lot of traffic out of the school, too. So it improves safety in a lot of ways. We purchased new digital walkies, which we had previously leased in all the years that I've been with ESP. Before last year and this year, we always leased our walkies. So we made that move and purchased new digital walkies, which saved us quite a bit of money each year. Improved communication between our staff and the staff to the administration up front. We also, for our students, made sure that we had iPads for use at each site. There are at least 15 at each site. Some sites have a few more. And we really ramped up our Twitter posts this year because we want to share with the community and with you all the things that are happening in ESP, whether it's on a snow day. So you'll see a tweet that may say ESP snow day or ESP after school. If it happened during the summer, I would have hashtag ESP summer. So it's pretty clear as to when these activities are happening. ESP also improved student learning and professional development for our staff. Reading and math standards have become embedded in our after-school activities. We've also employed over 100 certified teachers in our program last school year that assisted with reading and math tutoring, keyboarding skills, homework help, and academic enrichment classes. Our staff participate in ongoing professional development sessions geared towards incorporating these standards into their after-school activities. Our staff also, of course, do required state trainings of CPR, first aid, child abuse reporting, bloodborne pathogens, and new staff orientation. Additionally, we offer in-services or trainings and workshops for our staff that they get to choose from that aren't necessarily required, but something that they may be interested in taking. So those were some of the things that the adults did for the ESP program last year and the beginning of this year. So what did our children do? And that's what's most important. We always want to know what are we doing for our children before and after school. And in the picture on the left that you can see on the screen, this was part of a coding camp that happened at Hobgood this past summer, which I'll talk about here in just a few minutes. And of course, arts and crafts, always a big hit in any after-school program. One of the things our students did last school year was explore career paths. We implemented a new program called ACE, which stands for After School Career Exploration. This is a joint partnership between ESP, Junior Achievement, and the Rutherford County Chamber of Commerce. And I'd really like to thank Beth Duffield from the Rutherford County Chamber of Commerce and Workforce Development. She is really instrumental in developing this program and bringing volunteers into our school. We had hundreds, literally hundreds of volunteers from the community and local businesses that came in and taught these junior achievement lessons to our students. followed by a guest speaker that came in and spoke to the students about their career or their job and allowed the children to ask them questions. We offered this to all students in grades 4 through 6. There was no cost at all for this program. As a follow-up for this program, we also took students on field trips across the community. And in this picture, you can see we went to the Coca-Cola plant, which was really a lot of fun. That was my favorite field trip. We've been here. We came here to, we sat in your seats and we let the kids talk on your microphones and they saw themselves on the television. It was a great time. We went to the sheriff's department, visited with the EMTs. Oh gosh, we went to TCAT. We went to MTSU. We took them on probably close to right around 40 field trips as just a follow-up to this program. Our ESP students, before and after school, learned, they made new friends, they explored music in a variety of music classes, including violin and piano. They exercised, they sculpted in art class, they designed in engineering classes, and they were overall just creative every day. They participated in sports, science, technology, art, and cooking summer camps. We kicked off this past summer, the very first week of summer, before we completely lost the kids to just fun and games. We kicked off a week-long camp using materials from a company called Explora Science. So these were all really hands-on kind of science experiments that wowed the children. We brought in art teachers from across the district that taught amazing art lessons to our students that created beautiful end products for them to take home. And we also had certified teachers come in and teach coding, which is new to our students. It was amazing to watch kindergartners write lines of code and to learn about computer programming. You should really come into our, invite you all, any of you, to come into our schools. We have Google CS coding going on right now in many of our sites. And it is quite amazing to see what the kids pick up and learn to do in a very short amount of time. Additionally, the majority of our students in ESP at all 12 schools participated, thanks to the nutrition department, in a junior chef camp this past summer with Chef Jack. So he kind of rotated around the schools and did a 1 to 2 week camp at each school. And you can tell by the pictures that is definitely one of the children's favorite activities. Of course, there's food. But the great thing is that they got to try new things that they'd not tried before, healthy items, and they learned to peel carrots. They learned to do all just sorts of really cool things that hopefully will take them into the future. 2 of our sites, and this is an opportunity that we've had for the past couple of years through the Tennessee College and Career and Technology Center across the street on Old Fort. They have allowed 2 of our sites to come to a week-long camp during the summer. So one school goes for a week, and then another school goes for a week in July. So once in June, once in July. They bring our kids. We bus them over every day for a week. It's completely free of cost to our ESP students. And they spend a week learning about health and science careers. And you can see there was a little microsurgery going on this summer. And they give the kids lots of goodies at the end. And they're so wonderful. They even do a parent night on the Thursday night to end the camp. They invite parents in and serve them dinner and show them everything that their children have been doing all week. So it's been a wonderful partnership for ESP. My own children have participated in this camp in the past and wanted to this year, but it wasn't their school's turn, so they had to share. Also, something we were very, very proud of that we implemented this year was a partnership between Old Fort Golf Course and ESP. We implemented 2-week golf camps at our sites. Golf is not something that we offered in the past on a wide scale. So we held 5 camps at 5 different schools. And during the camp, There were 7 days of indoor training. The equipment that we purchased can be used indoors. We don't need a golf course to learn how to play golf. We were able to do this in our gyms, as you can see in the pictures. But after those 7 days of initial training, we took them to an actual golf course, to Bloomfield Links, which is Old Fort's new children's golf course. It's 6 holes. And they got to play there for 3 days. Jex Wilson, we're very, very fortunate to have Jex Wilson, who is a PGA master professional and youth golf, and also serves as the youth golf director at Old Fort Golf Club, personally came to every site and instructed during those 7 days. The difference between day 1 and day 7 was incredible. You would think that they could go out on a tour right now and play golf with the best of them. It was it was a wonderful camp, and the children really enjoyed it. Now the heat, that was another thing. Our students investigated computer science at Code Camp. I mentioned this earlier. I had the opportunity to go several days and observe this camp, and also participate on a parent end of it at the end of the week when they had a parent program to show what they had learned. This camp was a result of a partnership between the Nashville Tech Council, the Rutherford County Chamber of Commerce, the United Way, and ESP. So there were a lot of people that made this happen. During this coding camp, which was actually much more than coding, our students designed websites, they wrote code, they made electronic cards, they recorded music, they designed video games, they built a robot, and so much more. And what was so amazing about it was on Friday when I went to visit for the student presentations, we had these students in grades 3 through 6 stand in front of everybody and parents and people like me that they didn't know, taking pictures of them, and articulate what they had learned. It was incredible. I was so impressed, and I spent a lot of years in the classroom, but these kids were, it blew my mind what they learned in 4 days. This, of course, was at no cost to ESP or the students, and it was provided through grant funding through the United Way. Our students also learned and played tennis. We were lucky enough to have the United States Tennis Association and the Murphysboro Tennis Association provide matching funds for new tennis equipment for 4 schools. So they provided enough equipment that it would outfit 4 schools. However, not all of our schools have tennis courts, but that's okay because you don't need a tennis court to learn how to play tennis. This equipment has indoor nets, and we are able to share this equipment among the 12 schools and rotate it around so that everybody has a chance to participate and learn about tennis. Our students also ran, they danced, they performed, they toured buildings, they built, and so much more than we could ever mention tonight. And of course, no summer would be complete without field trips. That is kind of the anchor of our summer program. Our students very much look forward to these field trips, and we want to be able to provide those experiences at a very low cost as much as we can. So some of the places that our students went were, of course, the Nashville Zoo. The Chattanooga Aquarium is always popular, and bowling. And not only do they get to go bowling, they get to go behind the scenes and see how it works. They also went to the Adventure Science Centers. You can see them dangling from some cords there. Lucky Lad Farms also is a popular destination. The new Jump Street Center, where we can go jump on trampolines and climb. They enjoy that. And of course, the Discovery Center. Our students also had the chance to participate at Patterson Park during Uncle Dave Macon Days and see some different performances on stage there. And Manchester Rec, which is allows us to rent out their pool for very low cost. That way, we're only seeing students in the water that are ESP students. We're not mixed with the general public. We don't have anything like that here in Murphysboro, so we do drive to Manchester, and it is one of our favorite field trips. But there's more. Of course, we see Chuck E. Cheese in the picture. That's always a popular
destination. Our students visited the farmers market, and that was kind of tied in with the junior chef program. We wanted to make sure that they went out to see where these fresh fruits and vegetables, not necessarily where they come from, but where they end up, where they can find them. So now on to new programming that's happening either right now or will be happening before the end of this school year. So appearing now or coming soon to an ESP site near you. The most exciting program to me would be Right Brain Books. This is a writing curriculum which we have trained. We brought someone in this summer and trained teachers at all 12 schools, certified teachers, to teach this program throughout ESP, which will, by the year's end, result in 480 published authors at no cost to students. So we're very, very excited about that, and we're very excited to get these books published and be able to share those with you all at a later date. Also, I mentioned the iPads earlier. The iPads are one of just many apps that we use to teach coding or math and reading. We have Club WOW, Science Club WOW. So our students are participating in activities such as dissecting owl pellets or exploring polymers. Girl Scouts of Middle Tennessee will be providing a 9-week STEM program for girls at all of our ESP sites this school year, free of charge to ESP. Soccer will return in the spring, followed by an end-of-season soccer jamboree at McKnight Park. And we also have some coding resources that we're using. Right now, we are using Google CS First. This is a free resource. Google ships us the materials to use with the students, and it is an online program, but they also have offline activities as well. So if it's not being taught at a particular school right this moment, it will be in the second 9 weeks or the third 9 weeks of school. And also, code.org is another resource to teach coding. It is a free resource for children as young as kindergarten. And like I said, it is amazing what these kindergartners can do with coding and computer programming. We think that it's going to be a great year in ESP. But we have a lot of people to thank, and I don't want to read this list because I'm so afraid that I'm going to leave someone off this list that deserves our thanks. But we would not be able to have the wonderful program that we do without all of the community partners that help us either during the summer or during the school year. So thank you so much for your time tonight. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your report. Very good, detailed, and ESP is thriving every day. Thank you for work you do with students.
Thank you so much.
And I'm going to turn the rest of it over to Mr. Anderson. Thank you very much, Candy, tonight. Thank you, Ralph.
Thank you, Dr. Gilbert. Board members, the next item on your agenda is the revenue and expenditure report. We're at the 16.7% time of the year. We are showing a negative net income of $1,199,000. Last year at this time, we were a negative $1,531,000. So we improved our net position by a few $100,000, which is good news at this point. Our revenues are ahead of collection schedule. We're at 8.7% collections. Last year at this time, we were at 8.1%. And our expenditures last year at this time were 10.1, and this year we're at 9.9. So we're on target for our budget for that as well. Some of the categories you'll see on the percentages all on the far right-hand side are above the 16.7. Remember, over the summers when we do our work on our capital outlay expenditures, we do work on getting in our software programs and paying our fees to the software providers is typically when that happens. So overall, the budget seems to be doing fine at this point of the year through the month of August. Anyone has any questions on that?
Ms. Phillips?
Mine's not a question, but something about the way it's downloaded. I mean, it goes through our computer like this, so it's very difficult to read. So I just a little housekeeping note for whoever takes care of that. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The personnel report is attached for you. If you have any questions, that would be Mr. Ringstaff's area. If you have any questions on those. Okay, then the enrollment numbers. This is the 20-day report that you have. We do, as you know, we do it every 20 days. And on this one, you'll see that we are up 313 students over the end of last year at this time. That counts all pre-K students in this mix. Our pupil-teacher ratio was 19.08 for K through 3, 21.45 through 4 through 6, for an average pupil-teacher ratio for the district at 19.92 to 1. That's, as you know, an excellent ratio and right on target with what we've been shooting for.
Mr. Anderson, I hate to interrupt, but that's not what I'm showing. We're looking at a worksheet as of September the 18th. Is that what you're looking at?
There's one I handed you tonight at your desk. I was going to go over that next, but there was one on your computer.
Okay.
That was the 20.
I'm sorry. We were all looking at this one.
Okay. Well, that one's even better. If you want to go that one.
Okay. Which one you want to go over?
Well, I was just
tell us which one you're working on. So
I'm sorry. The one in your board packet was the one I was reading. The first 20 days. We did a report this Friday just to get some additional numbers, and if you want to go to that one, it just updates the one I was reading off of. We've grown 322 students, so from the first 20 days till now, we grew 9 additional students, and our pupil-teacher ratio overall is still 19.95, and we did have a 95% attendance rate for the first month of school. If I have any questions on that, obviously, the reason I gave you the second one is to show you that we are growing just about every day. I got a call this evening at one particular school grew 3 students this afternoon. So people just keep on coming.
Hey, Ms. Renier?
I guess mine is just a comment about the APR percentage. We normally are higher than that. I wonder why. Does this take into account? Would children have been, they're not counted absent until the day they register, right?
Right. Sometimes there's carryover students that we expect to arrive that have registered, but then they don't show up. And so some of that number could possibly be in that number.
Okay.
Now, 95% is still
it's not
an
bad,
excellent
but
one.
normally we're
around
97.
96 or 97.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, now, if a child has registered and has not shown up, you don't count them on the roll, do you?
What we do on this particular report, we count them because they have registered for the first week or so, and then they fall off. We have to keep them on so many days before we can drop them off the rolls, and then we take them off.
So if they don't show up the first 2 or 3 days, do you try to contact them to see if they're coming?
Yes, the first day we try to contact them directly. A lot of times the phones are disconnected or so they've changed numbers, and we have a hard time catching up with them.
Okay. All right. Other questions on personnel report? On the attendance report?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anything else to come before this board tonight, Mr. Barrett?
I just have an announcement, if I could, real quick. September is Archaeology Awareness Month, and in Tennessee, and I know the 4th graders are currently learning about prehistory in Tennessee, and I'm an archaeologist, so that's right up my passion here. But there's going to be a family archaeology activity day this Saturday at the Heritage Center right downtown here at 225 West College Street from 10 a.m. to 2 o'clock. And they're going to have such things as artifact ID. You can bring in your spirit points, and they'll tell you what they are. Trash can archaeology, archaeology of plants. You can see stone tools being made, just all sorts of things. So teachers, students, parents, come on out and check this out. It's a great opportunity.
That's from, you said 10 to 2?
10 to 2, yep.
What's the address again?
225 West College Street, right over here, right downtown, the Heritage Center.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Ms. Phillips.
And I would like to invite all of you wonderful people, plus all the good folks out in TV land, to Murph's Fun Run, which is also this Saturday. Come to Murph's Fun Run first because it starts at 9, and your event starts at 10, and ours is a fabulous event. It's at Gateway Island. It's open this year to kids, adults, anyone, and it's the only entrance fee is either a box of tissues or wipes to help keep our kids healthy this winter for the classrooms. It benefits Murphysboro City Schools. It's all about healthy choices and getting out there and having a fun family activity. So Murph's Fun Run, 9 o'clock, Gateway Island.
All right, Ms. Smith.
And on October the 1st is the City Schools Foundation Fashion Show, which I'm so fortunate I get to participate this year in a very fun way. And Roseanne Barton is actually emceeing it this year. So I hope that all of you will attend. And many thanks to all of the people with the City Schools Foundation for working so hard for our school children, and all of the local vendors, which I hope that we will get a list of that sometime soon, who are showing their wares to benefit the foundation. So thank you all.
Any other announcements, Ms. Ranier?
I don't have an announcement, but some things that maybe we could have a report on next time. Again, the custodial issue. Chow bus, I think we asked for that. We haven't heard anything on chow bus. How many meals were served over the summer. And then how many schools do we have that actually have computer labs and a computer lab teacher? I'm hearing some concern for the students, the second graders who have used iPads, and then they're going to use a laptop, and on their initial testing, they're having a hard time making that transition. So the issue was brought up to me about how many actually have computer labs.
We moved away from computer labs. If there are labs now, I'm not aware of them. I know that some folks have put that back in their rotation, but we moved away from the labs because we know that has to be infused with instruction. So you have the laptops are second grade up.
Right. Well, I think the big thing is the keyboarding skills.
Right.
Those
And
are
that's-
issues that were
right.
discussed with me.
And that's up to the principal to work out. I would like to recognize two people in the audience, and they don't know I'm going to do this, but we have the new principal and also assistant principal at Bradley. We have Misty Dobbs, who is the assistant principal, and then Jenny Ortiz, who's the principal. And in addition to our old-time principals back there, so thank you for being here.
You're not talking about Joe, are you?
I might be talking about Joe and Tammy.
Well, let me ask a question, and maybe a congratulatory as well. Do I understand correctly that either today or right around today is a 4-year anniversary for Lisa Trail with our system?
Maybe. She's running the tennis camp tonight, so
a job well done. Okay. Anything else? Any other announcements? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're out of here.